piece up front, which is the front bumper. We call it front bumper, it's actually a fascia. I just wanted to bring one in, obviously you can see the damage on this one that was replaced. This is off a 2011 Ford Escape, I believe. But they're basically just a cosmetic trim part. There really isn't a whole lot of strength to them. As you can see, they're very, very thin. It's made of urethane type plastic, pliable, that kind of thing. And there really isn't much to them other than the cosmetic shape, color. Gives a good look to the car, that kind of thing. This particular one has got the actual branding of the vehicle or the model right in that, but most vehicles do not have that aspect of it. But a lot of them are built that way. Behind that, and typically most cars in the smaller SUV unibodies will be a heavier metal reinforcement bar. And this is where your strength and safety comes in. If you get hit, obviously, if all you had was the plastic front end of the vehicle, there's not much strength there. It goes in and moves pretty easily. The metal reinforcement bar behind it, which most vehicles have, there's probably some kind of foam absorber. In this case, this is a piece of one that I just pulled just to kind of demonstrate a little bit there. But they'll fit along the front of the vehicles in a manner that gives it a little bit of cushion and also a little bit of shape to the soft cover itself, so that when it fits on there, it's both appealing, and yet we have the structure part there for safety when you do get hit. There's a little bit of protection that way on. So, just kind of leave it out like that. I'm going to jump over to my diagram here then shortly. Once again, this would be in the rear of the car is much the same as this, but most accidents occur involving the front of the vehicle a lot of the time. I just put together just a brief outline of a unibody structured vehicle. Most pickup trucks, full-size trucks, some of the older cars have a full frame, meaning that they have literally a metal framework that the body is then set on and bolted in place, and you can unbolt it and literally take them apart. I'm sure Joel probably has had maybe a few things apart, that type of thing out there. The unibody vehicles are, as it kind of says in that word unibody, it's all welded together structurally and by the various pieces. The fenders are bolt-on items, the doors are bolt-on items, but the rest of the car basically is all a shell, so to speak. It's all held together by thousands of spot welds, that kind of thing. And once each piece by itself, not real strong, you can bend it, that type of thing. But when you weld them all together, much like the foundation of some retaining wall or a home or that type of thing, when you put everything together, you have a really good sound structure, and that's basically what the unibody vehicle is. They're designed so that if they would be hit in the front, they have crushed zones, which are actually, and I didn't have an example of that currently to bring, but some of these actually even have little, they call it convoluted areas that will have little kind of a crinkly French fry look to it, I guess, type of thing there, where they're made so that when it's hit, they're actually made to accordion and absorb some of the impact of the vehicle. The vehicles have that both in the front and in the rear in the event of a rear crash type thing. And what they're after in the unibody structure, as I've outlined here, is the passenger cabin, is how we kind of say it, for passenger safety. That the front will absorb damage along with the bumper. It will absorb some of the damage. These crush zones, so the front of the car might be shortened up quite a bit. Same thing on the rear of the car, shortened up quite a bit, but the integrity of the main cabin part, a lot of the strength is kept there so that no one gets injured too severely from that in normal crashes. Along with that, the cars are all built at the factory, kind of on a, we call it a jig or a set jig or a set of fixtures where the vehicle is set up, and it's set in a certain spot, and that's it, and they're welded together, and everything is exactly perfect. Once this is damaged, of course, that's where we come in. We've got a series of equipment. The big machine that I have, I got about $37,000 invested in that, between the rack for pulling it. We literally could hook on a vehicle and pull it in half if we wanted to. We don't do that, though. We have the strength to do that. I just kind of outlined, if we could take this main cabin of the car, rotate and look at the bottom side of the car. There are various points or target points on the car when the vehicle is built that they have as reference points. So the system that I have for measuring that and straightening out has what's called a camera. It's basically a tall machine. It's about so big, square tube box. It sits on a pedestal, sits at the front of the vehicle, literally shooting almost kind of like a laser beam type thing out. And then each of these target points, there are attachments that go on to these various points on the car that are all predetermined per vehicle. It cost me $1,700 a year to subscribe to this system, so that I have, for every vehicle on the road, I have the exact measurements for it. So if we have a 2014 Mercedes-Benz 240S, punch in the computer and all, everything comes up for that, we punch it in, hang our targets on the pre-selected areas, which are going to vary on each vehicle, and we can tell how many millimeters, and a millimeter is very small. It'll tell us down to the millimeter, but it's up, high, low, right, left, that type of thing, so we can therefore either straighten it to the appropriate area, or if it's non-straightenable, replace it with the new spot wells and that type of thing, put everything back. Actually counting down to the number of spot wells that are put into it, so it gets pretty involved. A lot of places don't have this kind of technology. They pull it down, the door fits, the other fender fits down the road. I've had several nightmarish ones where people have called and say, my car just doesn't drive quite right, and the bumper sits kind of funny, and I looked at it and go, whoa, you know, I mean, it's just really, really bad. Some things were both missing, wouldn't line up, but yet they're around the road. They really should not have been on the road for safety reasons. Another aspect that kind of goes along with the safety part, which we all have on our vehicles, if it's probably from 1994 and newer, 93, an airbag system, either a single bag or a dual bag system. I've got a few components here that I brought in. This is are some pieces that have been deployed, and this kind of all works all together. The structure for safety reasons, that sort of thing. It all starts up at the front of the car, little airbag sensors. I brought one in. This tiny little piece here, it's not very big, as you can see, $257 for that little bad boy right there. And that goes up at the front of the car. And whenever anything is deployed up front, it's an automatic replacement because it's a one usage, one time type thing. That was also a major computer module with all, you can see the electrical plugins that kind of like the brain box of the system, so to speak. This particular one, I think, was $647 for that piece right there, without the labor to install it or anything like that. But there again, it monitors everything. As you can see, the people close all the little pins in there. There are probably 45 to 50 different pins in there, different things that go all around the vehicle for the different sensors and that kind of thing. The seat belts are also an integral part of the airbag system. Most of us, we get in the car, you've got the lap belt, snap it, you don't think twice of it, but there are a lot of things to that. There are sensors within those. There again, the electrical plug-in that would plug into that. And I think this particular one was like $268 for this assembly on that. But there again, there's a pretensioner, and the seatbelt unit itself is just extremely expensive, but it has to be replaced for safety because once again, it kind of all goes together. All of these different components connect together, and if one component is much like a home foundation or thing there, that type of thing, your strongest point is actually your weakest point in the whole project there. If you don't have one part of it working, none of it is going to work really well. I also have, moving up to like the steering column, you can visualize holding onto the steering wheel. Just at the bottom of that, a clock spring. It's another electronic gadget piece that goes in there that kind of regulate plugins all over the place on it. That's probably about a $380 item right there for that clock spring. And then just above that is the traditional airbag module, which most of us right in the center of our steering wheels have some. This happens to be a Mazda, and then look forward, whatever it is. And this is actually what a bag looks like deployed, which hopefully none of us will ever have to see one up close and personal because of that. But once again, all of the plugins, and these can range cost between probably $650 to $900 for just that piece, just by itself, plus the labor and the testing to make sure everything all works and everything there. when it's all done. How am I doing for time?
I know, it's interesting, we haven't been paying attention.
One last item I want to bring up, and this is kind of goes a little bit with it. It's not directly with the airbag system, but it's the anti-lock brake system on the car. This particular one is out of a Toyota 4Runner. It was hit in the front. Really nothing wrong with it other than it broke the plastic case there, which allowed moisture, humidity in the air to get in the system. Once that seal is breached, it's no good. This was $1,247.
Holy cow.
Plus I had to take the vehicle to Madison to get it all recalibrated and all that stuff, because that's a Toyota only thing. You can't have it done independently, and I don't have the equipment because I'm not a dealer for that. But it's just insane. You know, some of these estimates I write on some of these, bigger hits. It's like, oh, this is incredibly expensive, but a good reason why it is that the parts are just so expensive.
Yeah.
As we all in our various things have known what we need to do, their parts are just really expensive on different things. So I guess that's about it, unless anybody has any questions.
Wow,
really good. The whole 10 minutes time.
Do you see a lot of, with all this equipment that's so expensive nowadays, are the insurance companies basically just wiping out cars, buying cars?
That's one thing that's in Wisconsin. Minnesota is different because they don't include airbag equipment in the overall, as I understand it, the overall total loss value of the vehicle. They exclude that because you can have some really, and we have some really nice vehicles that need got hit rate center in the front, and the airbag sensor trips the airbag and deploys, much like that. So it ends up being $1,800 to $2,500 ordeal just for one bag, and there's another bag on the passenger side, plus you have the side skirt airbags and some in the headrests, and but even on a very plain job, because if you could tow a lot of vehicles, it would be very repairable if it wasn't for the airbag system. Yes, sir.
Now that the auto industry is starting to go towards a lot of aluminum vehicles, I guess it's a big push. Have you worked on anything with aluminum bot, and how do you like that versus these?
You have to have totally separate tools. At this point, it's been very limited. The new 2016 Ford truck is going to have an aluminized cab where it's still going to be, as I understand it, a frame bolted onto a body type scenario, two separate pieces, but the cabin, like in my drawing up there, the main cab of the truck, that a lot of that is spot, well, that is going to be aluminum on it.
What's it? I wonder what the advantage. I mean,
It's
I know about aluminum, but what do you see as a big plus side?
The plus side for the consumer is that it's less weight, better fuel mileage. A lot more downsides from my end than upsides. It's going to be a lot more expensive to repair. Parts are a lot more expensive. I've got currently most of the time aluminum is used in either hoods or deck lids on vehicles, a lot of GM. Some Fords as well, some of the Ford trucks, aluminum. Mercedes, Lexus might have aluminum deck lid or aluminum hood on them, and they are extremely expensive. A typical hood might be $375 to $400 on a $500 on a traditional vehicle. An aluminum hood is probably between $900 and $1,200 for aluminum hood. You have to have totally separate repair tools for it. Like if you have a small dent, you can't use the same hammer and dollar. I'll just refer to it here. If there would be, say this is a piece of metal, a dent in it, if there's a dent in it, you can kind of work it off with a hammer and what we call a dollar, which is another piece you hold on the back side. You cannot use any steel working tools on an aluminum vehicle or aluminum sheet metal project. I know a lot of you are really young, but years and years ago, some of these cars, they had aluminum, these inner beams under the bumpers were aluminum, and then they had a steel face bar, chrome bar over the top, and aluminum and steel don't get along real well together. They corrode really bad, and that's the problem with using the sheet metal steel tools, galvanized or high-strength steel tools on aluminum, is it can contaminate the aluminum and cause rust and corrosion. And that's why some of these other issues are cropping up on a lot of vehicles that have corrosion on the aluminum parts, is that somewhere along the way there's been some steel exposed to it and they don't play together. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.